She dated Fred Astaire in secret. Now we know the reason why. Joan Crawford was born Lucille Fay LeSueur on March 23, 1904 in San Antonio, Texas. Crawford's early years were really tough because of being poor and having a hard life. Her father left the family when she was young and her mother had a hard time taking care of her children. Lucille's difficult childhood made her really want to escape her situation and do better than what people expected from her. From the beginning, she had a strong drive that would later make her known as one of the most hardworking and tough actresses in movie history. Crawford got into show business in the 1920s, starting out as a dancer in traveling shows and finally landing in Hollywood, where her natural charm and beautiful looks caught the attention of movie studio bosses. She was signed by MGM and soon went through a huge change both in her career and in her personal life. The studio gave her a new name, Joan Crawford, a name picked through a contest in a fan magazine, and began training her for stardom. Crawford's ability to change and remake herself quickly became what she was known for. She went from a chorus girl to a leading lady, representing the flapper style during the Roaring '20s. Her lively screen presence combined with her sharp smarts and non-stop hard work allowed her to move up through the ranks in an industry that was really competitive. By the 1930s, Crawford had made herself one of MGM's most profitable stars. She was often cast in rags to riches roles, stories that were like her own life and really connected up with Depression-era audiences. Films like Our Dancing Daughters, 1928, and Grand Hotel, 1932, made her reputation stronger as both glamorous and easy to relate to. She was not just a symbol of beauty, but also of determination and self-made success, qualities that made her an icon to working-class women who wanted a better life. Behind the scenes, her smart business sense helped her deal with the dangerous politics of Hollywood, allowing her to last while many of her fellow actors faded away. Crawford's lasting power was nothing short of amazing. Unlike many actresses of her time who were typecast or thrown away as they got older, she constantly remade her image. In the 1940s, after leaving them, she signed with Warner Brothers, where she gave one of the greatest performances of her career in Mildred Purse, 1945. Her acting as a struggling single mother who gives up everything for her daughter won her the Academy Award for Best Actress, securing her place among Hollywood's best. This role also changed her public image, moving her from a glamorous starlet to a serious, dramatic actress. Her career went well into the 1950s and 1960 seconds with memorable roles in films such as Humoresque 1946, Possessed 1947, and the gothic thriller Whatever Happened to Baby Jane 1962, where she famously acted alongside her rival Bette Davis. This last film, though filled with tales of backstage fights and hatred, remains proof of her ability to control the screen and to fascinate audiences even after decades in the business. Crawford's willingness to take on challenging roles that went against her glamorous image showed her artistic bravery and a refusal to be stuck into Hollywood's austerity. Joan Crawford's personality was as dramatic and interesting as her career on the movie screen, and much of the public's interest centered around her marriages, each of which showed a different stage of her life, career, and goals. Her first marriage was to the handsome actor Douglas Fairbanks Jr., the son of silent film legend Douglas Fairbanks Sr. and stepson of screen queen Mary Pickford. The couple married in 1929 at Atimi when Crawford was quickly rising to fame in Hollywood. Their union was one of glamour and high society, as they were often seen at parties and social events representing the golden couple of the early 1930s. However, beneath the shiny surface, problems soon showed up. Fairbanks Jr. came from one of Hollywood's most established head families, while Crawford, who had fought her way up from a poor and difficult childhood, was still thought of as something of an outsider by the more fancy Hollywood elite. Although the marriage started with promise, the pressures of their careers, differences in background, and maybe the disapproval of Fairbanks' family put a strain on the relationship. The couple finally divorced in 1933 after 4 years of marriage, leaving Crawford both heartbroken and more determined than ever to secure her place at the top of Hollywood's ranking. Her second marriage was to actor Frank Tone, whom she married in 1935. Tone was a sophisticated classical trained actor from New York known for his work in stage productions as well as films. Crawford, by then an established star, admired Tone's intelligence, class, and dedication to the craft of acting. Their marriage was filled with passion, but it was also full of difficulties. Crawford reportedly pushed Tone's career forward, trying to copy him into a bigger star, but her strong will and ambition often clashed with his more calm artistic personality. The couple's differences in personality and lifestyle slowly drove them apart. Although their union lasted only until 1939, and they divorced after 4 years together, Crawford and Tone managed to keep a deep respect and even affection for one another. They remained friends long after their divorce, with Tone even supporting Crawford publicly during difficult times later in her career, proving that their bond had not been completely erased by the end of their marriage. In 1942, Crawford married again, this time to Philip Terry, an actor who was less well-known than her previous husbands. Terry's easygoing personality seemed to offer Crawford a sense of stability and comfort during a time when her film career was going through major changes. During the early 1940s, she had left MGM, the studio that had made her a star, and was looking for a new direction in Hollywood. Terry seemed to provide a steady home life, and the couple even adopted a son together whom they later named Christopher, though the child was eventually taken back by his biological mother. Despite these attempts at building a home life, the marriage soon fell apart. Crawford's non-stop drive and Terry's more quiet personality did not turn out compatible in the long term. They divorced in 1946 after 4 years of marriage, leaving Crawford once again single and focused mostly on her career and her growing family of adopted children. Crawford's fourth and final marriage was perhaps the most important in terms of her public image and financial security. In 1955, she married Alfred Steele, the president of Pepsi-Cola. This union marked a new chapter in her life as she moved from being mainly seen as a glamorous movie star to becoming a powerful businesswoman and socialite. Steele leadered Crawford and gave her a sense of security and status outside the world of Hollywood. She in turn took an active role in supporting Pepsi-Cola, traveling all over to promote the brand and serving as an unofficial ambassador for the company. The marriage brought Crawford a kind of respectability and influence that she had long wanted, and she took on her role with energy. Tragically, Steele's sudden death in 1959, just 4 years after their marriage, left Crawford devastated both emotionally and financially. Nevertheless, she honored his memory by continuing to serve on the board of Pepsi and representing the company for many years, connecting her name and image with the brand long after his passing. When the film Dancing Lady was released in 1933, audiences were amazed by its mix of romance, glamour, and show-stopping musical numbers. For Joan Crawford, horse-I've top billing, it was not only a really important project in her career, but also the beginning of one of the most interesting off-screen stories in Hollywood's golden age. Crawford found herself in the company of 3 amazing men. Clark Gable, the tough leading man with whom she already shared an electric chemistry. Frank Tone, their fine and fancy actor who would later become her husband. And Fred Astaire, a newcomer to the screen whose calm and elegant dancing would soon make him a movie legend. The film brought these stars together in a whirlwind of rehearsals, publicities, and long days on set and beneath surface. Crawford's life began to mix with theirs in ways the public could only guess about. Crawford later admitted that working alongside Fred Astaire changed her in unexpected ways. Fred was unlike anyone I had ever met, she said. He was graceful in everything he did. Even when he wasn't dancing, he had a gentleness about him that set him apart in a town where so many men were trying to prove how tough they were. At the time, Crawford's relations with Clark Gable had already created endless rumors, and the studio often encouraged the gossip to keep audiences interested in their films. Yet when it came to Astaire, things were handled with total secrecy. The studio did not want to take away from his carefully created image as a dancer who could appeal to women while still seeming approachable to men. For Fred Astaire's private life had to remain exactly that, private. Behind the scenes, however, Crawford and Astaire grew closer. They shared quiet dinners after long days of filming, sneaking away to avoid photographers. He was patient with me when I messed up over the dance routines, Crawford dreamed. Fred made me feel like I could do anything as long as he was leading. Their bond was not built on scandal or wild passion, but on mutual respect and tenderness, qualities Crawford rarely found in her highly competitive world. For Crawford, Woofton, showed strength and independence on screen. The quiet encouragement Astaire offered was both disarming and irresistible. She admitted years later, "Fred gave me a kind of peace I didn't know I needed. Yet, this growing romance had to be hidden." Hollywood was a place where image ruled, and Crawford was already being watched closely by both the public and the press. At the time, she was also moving toward a deeper involvement with Fred Astaire, who represented stability and class. "With Fred, I knew what the studio wanted," she said. "They saw us as a couple who could blend his class with my ambition. It made sense," at least on paper. Still, when Crawford looked back on her secret time with Astaire, she recognized that it was a relationship decided not by studio contracts or publicity campaigns, but by real affection. The secrecy added to its intensity, creating memories cherished with her long after their paths went separate ways. As history records, Crawford eventually married Fred Astaire in 1935, and her professional pairing with Clark Gable continued to create box office successes. Meanwhile, Fred Astaire would go on to become one of the most famous figures in musical film, often remembered for his dazzling partnership with Ginger Rogers, but behind the glittering curtain of Hollywood's golden age remained the little-known chapter of Crawford and Astaire's secret romance, an affair that might have changed Hollywood history had it been revealed at the time. "It was a brief thing," Crawford once said, "but it was real, and sometimes the quietest loves are the ones you never forget." In the end, the story of Joan Crawford and Fred Astaire's hidden relationship sheds light on the inside of stardom. Beneath the contracts, the studio manipulation, and the carefully crafted public images, there were real people with real emotions, wanting connection in a world where even love was scripted. Crawford's own words remind us of that truth. "We all played roles on screen, but sometimes the roles off screen were harder to keep secret." Joan Crawford's final days were marked by both physical decline and quiet, deeply human actions that showed her awareness of her own death coming. On May 10, 1977, the legendary actress had a fatal heart attack inside her New York City apartment located in the fashionable Six Hill neighborhood of Manhattan, a place that had long been connected with wealth, prestige, and privacy. The news of her passing sent shockwaves through Hollywood and the wider world of movies, for Crawford had been not just a film star, but an icon who had ruled the screen for more than 4 decades. Her death certificate officially listed her age as 69. Father was guessing throughout her life that she had cut years off her true age, a mystery that only added to her carefully built persona of glamour and eternal youth. Regardless of number of years she lived, her passing marked the end of an era in classic Hollywood history. What made her death even more sad was the small, heartbreaking decision she had made just days before. On May 6, 1977, just 4 days before her heart attack, Crawford reluctantly gave away her beloved Shih Tzu, a dog she had named Princess Lotus Blossom. Those who knew her said she loved the animal, treating it almost like family, for Crawford had always had a love for pets, and had often found in them companionship and loyalty that human relationships sometimes failed to provide. Giving Princess Lotus Blossom away was not done lightly. It was an act of giving up, a quiet acknowledgement that she no longer had the physical strength to provide the care, attention, and affection that the dog needed. For a woman known for her determination and strong will, that quiet act of letting go spoke volume as it her declining health. It symbolized the end of her independence and energy, qualities she had fiercely protected throughout her life and career. The decision showed just how fragile she had become in her final months. Once the perfect example of Hollywood discipline, always keeping a perfect image both on and off the screen, Crawford was now faced with the harsh reality that her health was getting worse beyond repair. Friends and biographers later said that she had grown isolated in the 1970s, rarely making public appearances, partly because she did not want to be seen looking weak or lessened. To those who admired her, the image of Joan Crawford giving up her cherished princess Lotus Blossom was both tender and tragic, showing the vulnerability of a woman who had once represented strength, glamour, and the non-stop drive to succeed in a ruthless industry. Her passing at Lenox Hill on May 10 closed the final chapter of a life lived with intensity and fire. The fact that it came so soon after she gave away her dog gives her death an almost story-like symmetry, as if she had instinctively prepared herself for the inevitable. The world remembered her as a star of rare greatness. But in those last days, she was also a woman facing the limits of life with quiet dignity. Joan Crawford's death and the small but important act that came before it remain carved in Hollywood history, not just as the conclusion of a great career but as a deeply human story of love, loss, and acceptance in the face of death. Retry Claude can make mistake.